I'm feeling good. I'm feeling grounded. Maybe a couple
Mm.
breaths together would be nice to more fully
Sure.
drop in if you're open to it.
Yeah. Do you want to
Yeah,
lead that?
sure. Okay, so I'm going to close my eyes, but you
Mhm.
can have your eyes open or closed. And just deepening the breath in through the nose, sending it down to your lower belly. Slow, full exhale out of the mouth. In through the nose. And out through the mouth. Becoming aware of the lower body, the pelvis, the weight of our bones, the point of contact between the seat beneath us and our skin. And I'm just going to take a couple more deep breaths. Reclaiming our thoughts and our energy back into our bodies, reeling it back into the center of our being, letting go of anything that's keeping us outside of this present moment. Being here now with the aliveness and sensations in our bodies, and allowing this conversation to come from a place of love and truth, whatever is here and alive and wanting to be expressed for the good of all beings. And coming back in your own time.
Mhm.
Mm.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. This is
Whoosh,
going to
now
be
I'm
fun.
really here.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to ask or share before we move into it?
Mm. Yeah, are these conversations more interview style or is it back and forth conversational
It
banter?
big fan of banter, so if you want to banter away, that's completely allowed.
Great.
I have a couple of touch point questions just to, you know, move in some sort of cohesive direction, but really it's just organic conversation. I'm a big fan of that.
Okay, perfect. I
Yeah.
love it.
Okay. Ready to jump in?
Let's do it.
Okay. Wonderful. So, Nadine, my first question for you is, what does safety mean to you?
Ooh, I love this question. So, the first thing that comes up when you say that is it's a sensation in the body. And I have a lot of clients come to me with the beautiful and very valid desire of saying, I want to feel safety in my body. I want to feel safety in my
Hmm.
sex and love and intimacy. But when we dig a little deeper and peel back the layers, a lot of people don't know what safety actually means.
Mm.
Or, okay, if you were to feel safe, what would that actually feel like? So it's beautiful to actually explore, and whoever's listening or tuning in can do this for yourself. You can have your eyes open or closed and just imagine, okay, if I were to feel fully safe in this moment, what would that actually, on a physical, biological level, feel like in my body? And usually it feels like this opening, this softening, like a full body exhale, at least for me, a sense
Mm.
of stillness, and it's when the nervous system is able to shift out of scanning our environment for a potential threat and to just be here in our bodies, breathing,
Mm.
relaxing, awareness. So
Okay.
to
So
me,
like a
safety
regulated
is
nervous system.
presence.
Mm,
Yeah,
presence. Presence.
totally.
Presence, but presence from a regulated. calm place? Because you can be present and hyper vigilant as well,
Hmm.
or no.
Ooh. I feel like, hmm. To me, I feel a sense of safety in my body when I have body awareness. Like when I'm not jumping out of myself and I'm able to be aware of my own body. Because to me, that gives me a sense of like, no matter what's happening, I'm here, I've got me, and I can hold myself.
Okay, so an inner presence.
Yeah,
Hmm,
I
okay.
suppose.
And please feel free to correct me if anything that I summarize or interpret feels incorrect.
Mm. No, I
Yeah.
just, that word safety, I love this conversation because it encompasses so much. There's so many layers to it. And I also feel that I feel safe when I feel a connection to choice, having choice and consent, which to me is also power. Like to be in your power and to feel a sense of safety is to have access to choices, to know that
Mm,
you are empowered to make choices for yourself.
okay, access to choice and empowerment. Okay, I like that. So I would imagine, and please correct me if I'm mistaken, that there are men that you feel safe with in your life.
Hmm. Yes. And I would say that um, I've found that my ability to feel safe around men has largely began with myself because before we started these questions, like I was explaining to you how for most of my life I was this man-hating, hyper
Mm,
independent feminist who yeah, just wanted nothing to do with men. And I would walk down the street like ready to flip someone off in any moment and was just like on defense, like, how dare you catcall me? And felt a really deep sense of unsafety no matter what man I was around. And the more that I
oh
did the
wow.
inner work to cultivate this sense of wholeness and safety within
Mm,
myself, now it feels like my safety isn't as dependent on my external environment because I'm like self-sourcing it from within. That's not to
yes.
say that there are men out there who do trigger a sense of unsafety within me, but it feels like something I'm holding within myself and carrying with me in those interactions.
Oh, I like this a lot. And that your safety
Mm.
is an internal thing rather than a situational external,
Mm.
externally dependent.
Right. Like if I'm at a workshop or a class or working with someone, it no
Mm,
longer feels like the facilitator has to be 100% embodied and 100% creating a safe space in order for me to get something out of it
to
or to
feel safe.
feel safe. Whereas it used to
Mm,
feel so dependent on what they're doing. I don't know if that
yeah,
answers your question.
no, no, no. It's it's interesting, and I'll get back to why that is
Yeah.
in a little bit. I don't want to step away from what it is that you shared, which was where you found yourself previously in this mentality of being an enemy to men. And
Mm,
I'm wondering what created that,
mm,
or what when did that uh, was that always true? Was that did you
mm,
grow up in that mentality, or was there a point when that changed and that became your reality?
mm, mm. I would say, hmm, I think around high school is when
Mm,
that frustration and resentment and like fuck you energy was really coming to the surface. And
mm,
Um, yeah, I had some like very horrific, disempowering, traumatic experiences with boys and men who were in
Mm,
my life and in my class.
mm,
Um, and a
mm,
lot of it, I mean, I wasn't consciously aware of this at the time. I was too young, but looking back, a lot of it didn't feel like it was fully just mine coming from me. It felt like collective and ancestral just rage that for thousands of
mm,
years, like women in so many ways have been deeply oppressed and held back and abused. And I feel like I was holding a lot more emotion and pain than what was just mine in this lifetime. Um,
mm,
and also just the environment that I was in and the social movements that were happening at the time and my friend group. It was almost like the cool thing, like you fit in if you're just like, oh, men are the worst. Like anytime we talk about
oh
boys, it's
wow,
to shit on them. It was kind of like, um, I don't know, no one really questioned it. It was just like, oh yeah, men suck.
right.
Um, which is so heartbreaking now to think about.
Mm.
Hmm.
Go, tell me more. What is it about that that's heartbreaking?
Yeah. And to even say this out loud can be quite controversial for a lot of people. But yes, women have been systematically very oppressed in so many ways. And I believe patriarchy as a system has deeply fucking repressed men as well and disconnected men
Mm,
from their power, their spirituality, their emotions, their tenderness, and the truth of who they are. Like it's, I don't know. I feel all genders have um, had to play these
mm,
kind of distorted roles and disconnect from ourselves and our truth and our souls in order to
mm,
exist within patriarchy, you
mm.
know?
Interesting. So it's I, the patriarchal structure, whilst it has benefited some men, has for the most part hurt everyone.
Mm,
It's hurt men as much as it has women, even if that's not been seen,
mm,
because it's the emotional end of the spectrum. And
mm,
it seems from my observation in the conversations I've had that men haven't been encouraged or educated on how to access that part of themselves. And is that where the heartbreak you're witnessing or that you felt has partly to do?
mm. Yeah, and I've spoken about this before, like on social media, and I have had a few women be like, "What are you talking about?" No, and I get it. Like, um, hmm, it's horrific what so many women have endured and been through for thousands of years now, and it's so important to name that and validate that. And at the same time, nuance exists. And I feel it's just as important to recognize the ways that, yeah, like you said, men have been repressed and disconnected as well. And in a lot of ways, men have benefited societally in terms of socioeconomic status and opportunities and um, having access to positions of power. And I believe in order to abuse someone, in order to cause harm to people, so for example, men towards women, you have to be deeply like fragmented and disconnected within yourself to do that over and over to a group of people. Like you have to be suffering a lot within yourself to be able to, for example, rape a person or take advantage of a
Mm.
whole group of people. So I think that comes from a deep place of pain.
So the the oppression and the maltreatment of women is actually a result of the pain that men have been experiencing as well, just differently. Is that
Mm,
is that partly what you're alluding
mm,
to?
Can you say that again?
That the pain and maltreatment that women in the past have been subjected to is pointing to the pain and disconnect that men have had in order to be able to do something like that.
Mm. Yeah, I definitely don't have the one ultimate answer, but I feel like
No,
a lot of it,
you
I
don't? You
feel
don't, Nadine? I
it's
was
only
hoping
me.
for the one ultimate answer from you. Oh, that's okay. We'll muddle through.
Um, I feel like a lot of it boils back down to the rise of the Catholic Church and organized religion and
Oh.
like us being told that we need a middleman in order to access goodness and innocence and sense of divinity and
Hmm.
connection to our soul and a sense of oneness. And being told that, I don't know, original sin exists and to be in a human body makes us dirty and wrong and sinful and bad. Um, and yeah, like with the witch burnings and um, the demolition of so many goddess religions, like women as an archetype were demonized and seen as evil and dirty and sinful and something to be controlled. I personally believe that's because we hold a great deal of power, as do all genders. But I think that power is something that collectively became very feared. And when we fear something, a lot of times historically, we want to control it and repress it
Mm.
because it's seen as a threat. Um, yeah.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah, I can understand that. So then you had these undesirable and unfortunate experiences with, let's call them boys, because that is boy behavior and boy consciousness. Even if it is portrayed in adult men, it's still unintegrated boy consciousness. Um, and that led to the understandable dislike and mistrust of men. And so then what shifted? Why are you still
Mm.
not flipping off men as you walk down the street?
I learned how to feel my feelings.
Oh,
Like
oh,
so like so much of what I experienced, the trauma and the like just really devastating experiences, I didn't have the guidance, the tools, the resources, mentors
mm,
in my life to give me an example of what it looks like to actually feel that pain and process it and digest it into fuel for power and
mm,
wisdom and
mm,
embodiment. I genuinely believe that all traumatic experiences that we navigate in this lifetime have the potential to fuel our purpose and fuel our gifts and our creativity and our becoming and blossoming of who we're supposed to be in this lifetime. So a
mm,
lot shifted when I did the deep, gritty, uncomfortable inner work of like
mm,
sitting with everything that was built up in my life
yeah,
and ancestrally and moving it through my body, letting it be seen and loved and embraced and expressed. And that just builds so much more fluidity and clarity in the body.
mm,
Um, yeah. And I also feel like a lot of it has just been maturity, maturation, like just
mm,
um, hmm, expanded consciousness and
mm.
awareness and empathy and compassion. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm curious then, was there like a light bulb or a switch moment where you went, oh fuck, I've been treating guys kind of shitty. Or was it just like a gradual thing and that you just one day look back and went, oh, I've really changed how I'm showing up in the world?
Mm. To my awareness, I don't think there was just like one light bulb moment of like,
Mm.
ah, I now love men. I think it was like a gradual unraveling process.
Mm.
Um, and ooh, a lot of it. Okay, so I was born and raised in New Jersey, right outside of New York City.
Hmm.
And growing up, I felt like I was kind of in this bubble and I didn't have a sense of what existed out of my immediate
Mm.
reality. And growing up, especially in high school, it was, if you've seen the movie Mean Girls, it felt very much like that. It was just, oh,
Okay.
the bullying and the cattiness and the gossiping and just horrible.
Wow.
And so after I graduated college, I only applied to universities outside of the US. I just wanted to break free and
Oh
see the
wow.
world. So
Where did
I
you go?
moved Costa Rica.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. And so I feel like traveling and getting outside of that bubble and being
Mm.
exposed to new perspectives and cultures and ways of being
Mm.
really shifted my relationship with absolutely everything, including
Hmm.
with men.
Mm. Okay.
Exposure.
And how's that exposure and that evolution and that change um showing up in your life now? What
Oh
does
my
that look
God.
like?
In every last drop of my life. Well, not to steer us all the way off in another direction. I know
I'll pull
there's
us
like a
back, don't
focus and
worry.
intention of this conversation. Okay. But now it's been 10 years. Most of the last 10 years have been abroad, mostly nomadically, living in lots of different cultures and
Mm.
environments and doing like really deep inner healing work and having a lot of mentors. And you asked, how does it show up in my life now?
Mm. Yeah,
Mm,
I guess to keep somewhat on track
yeah,
with relation to men and the
yeah.
masculine.
Mm. The first word that comes up as you ask that is a softening, just a
Mm.
softness and curiosity and compassion, like being genuinely curious about this human being in front of me instead of like just planting all of my pain and fears and projections
Right.
onto this person before I even give them an opportunity to
Ah,
reveal
okay.
themselves or be themselves.
So
So
it's
it's
not projecting a story onto them.
right.
Mm.
Genuine openness and curiosity of like, wow, there's a whole ass human in front of me. Let me get to know them.
Let me get to know their whole ass. Yes.
Their whole ass.
Okay. I like that. So it's the removal of the veil of illusion and projection of story to see the actuality of the individual that's sitting in front of you.
Mm, yeah.
Mm.
And it's so many things. It's also discernment and a deep self trust. Like so much of it really feels like it comes back to the self and what you're holding within. Like the more I trust myself, the more I'm able to interact with people more openly because I trust that I can hold myself no matter what happens. And I trust my intuition and my discernment. And I trust my ability to sense someone maybe does have bad intentions or someone who has an energy that feels a little off.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that
Okay.
piece around curiosity feels really huge and no longer planting projections on this person. But of course, I'm a human, so I definitely have projections still or
Sure.
little micro judgments. But for the most
Yeah,
part, just being
sure.
like, wow, let me get to know this human being.
Okay. And with that curiosity, there is the intuition and the discernment to be able to keep yourself safe, and I'm putting words into your mouth here, but
Go
not
for it.
rely on the person that you're with to create the safety for you.
Mm, yeah.
Because
And
one of the things that oh, sorry, go on, please.
no, go ahead.
Thank you. Because one of the things that I have heard come up several times from women is what helps them feel safe is a man who's able to hold them and their emotionality and them as in totality, and knowing that a man is capable of holding that empowers or allows them to feel safe.
Mm,
And what I feel like I'm hearing from you is your sovereignty and being able to discern and intuit and be curious means you're not dependent on a man to create the safety for you.
mm. Oh, I can't even tell you how much I love this conversation. Um, because I feel like it's both and
Yes.
a lot of what I've been talking about, I mean, it applies for me at least for everything, but especially just in regular interactions when you're going about your life, walking through the world. But a lot changes, of course, when you're in a romantic relationship with someone or a sexual
Mm.
dynamic. So,
Mm.
for me, with a man, if it's a romantic or sexual context, a lot of what creates safety is presence, feeling that he's here with me, presence, attunement, being attuned to um like being able to read the room, like attuning to
Mm.
body language, to the expression, to my closure or opening. And that takes practice and that takes a deep level of presence. And I feel like many women are a bit stronger in that realm. I think
Mm.
some of it might be biological, like on a nervous system level, and a lot of it is conditioned because we're very focused on
Mm.
social acceptance, making sure everyone's accommodated and comfortable. But when I can feel that a man is deeply attuned to my energy, to my breath, to my reactions moment to moment, that uh, it's so sexy. It's such a turn on. And it also just makes me feel seen and held and connected. And also open, direct, transparent, honest communication in
Mm.
a kind and loving way, but like just being so direct about this is how I feel, these are my intentions, this is what I want, this is my boundary. How about you? Like just to have that open conversation in my experience just leads to this sense of, oh, okay, we can be real. We can actually
Mm.
name what we're feeling inside and not tiptoeing around it in fear of
Mm.
abandonment or rejection or judgment.
Right.
Yeah, that makes me feel so safe when we can openly communicate about our feelings.
Yes, I like that. The honest, direct communication, the energetic attunement, the emotional intelligence, and the intellectual intelligence to be able to relay all of that. It's it's great. I
Mm,
I think part of that again, um condensing and interpreting. So feel free to correct me if anything I say feels misgiving. Is it feels what you're describing there is a man who his own emotional mastery and perhaps is to a degree integrated, if we want to label it, feminine quality of that emotionality into his masculine capability of holding space, and being direct and being present.
mm, mm. Yeah. I resonate with that word integration. Hmm. Yeah, like when I can feel that this person has self-awareness and has done inner work and has that inner
Mm,
harmony and integration and merging of what some may call the feminine and the masculine. Um, it's so beautiful to be around people like that because you can feel that they embody this sense of wholeness
mm,
within themselves. And
mm,
I also feel safe when um, I can sense that there's no fixation and grasping and attachment on needing a certain outcome or goal or destination, like needing to have sex or needing this to mean a certain thing. Um, when there's just this letting go and again, curiosity of moment to moment, what's
mm.
happening, how is the connection unraveling?
Right.
Then for both people, I feel like that lessens the pressure and it allows there to be spaciousness for whatever is alive in the moment to be
Mm,
birthed.
mm. Yes, I like that. The the difference between Kriya and Karma, doing being present for the joy of what the moment has to offer rather than needing to have an expectation of an outcome.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah.
I'm curious then, do you meet a lot of men like this, or would you say there's more? Because you mentioned earlier about you being able to get to this point away from where you were, which was this negative um, outlook and expression towards men. Took a lot of work, work, and doing the deep healing, etc. And from my perspective, it seems to be more women doing this than men. I don't know if that's been true in your experience.
Yeah, a lot of the spaces that I go to and classes, retreats, and workshops that are about, I don't know, somatic trauma healing, tantra, spirituality, all
Mm,
of these different things, conscious relating, tend to be more populated by women. Um, I feel that not a huge fan of generalizations, but if I had to generalize, I feel like in a lot of ways, in a
very
lot of
smart
ways,
position to
like
have.
even in just a heterosexual relationship, women, not always, but for the most part, tend to be kind of the visionary of the relationship and to
Mm,
lead, at least in the spiritual realms or in the healing
mm,
realms. Um,
mm,
I've seen that many times and have experienced that in my own life. Like women tend to go first in a lot of ways
yeah.
and be the invitation for the man to
Mm,
also come and explore and embody that if he has the inner motivation and it's not coming from a place of doing it for someone else.
yeah. No, I like this. I like this a lot. You speak into the women leading through invitation. And
Mm.
this speaks into, I know we mentioned it before, I can't remember if we mentioned it during this recorded part of the conversation, the apathy of many women around essentially being in that position of leadership and the frustration at the lack of men who aren't doing it of their own accord, or at least are struggling to get to that point. And if women are by nature more inclined to be in that position of evolution and leadership, isn't that kind of your gift?
Hmm. I believe so. Yeah,
Hmm.
this is something I've witnessed so many times. And I think a lot of women, like you said, like kind of hold some resentment or like, why do I
Mm,
have to drag you into
mm,
this? Why do I have to go first? Why can't you, um, I don't know, create a plan to go on this good sexuality retreat? Why is it always me? Um, And if it is like an aligned, attuned relationship, that's one thing. Um, but I feel like, as you mentioned, it is a gift of the feminine to kind of be that
Mm.
initiatrix and to be
Oh,
the
nice.
invitation. Um, and instead of thinking like, oh, I have to force my man or push my partner into doing something, what if you as in the woman explored what you want to explore just because you love it and it gives you pleasure and it lights you up? So maybe that looks like diving deeper into tantric erotic practices. So if you're feeling frustration or resentment around your boyfriend or your partner not being quite as interested, instead of thinking that you need to force him into it or convince him, like, this is good for you, I promise, just dive into it and be the embodiment of what you're
Mm,
exploring. Like, let it ooze out of you. Whatever
yeah.
you're wanting to tap into within these tantric erotic practices, maybe it's radiance, maybe it's, I don't know, sensuality and pleasure and
Mm.
turn on. Like, just be the embodiment of that to the best of your ability without attaching to, I'm doing this so that he gets on board with it. Like, just, I don't know, breathe it in and live it. And most likely
Mm.
he'll be like, damn, I want what she's having. Like, be the living embodiment of it, the evocation of it. And most likely within a few months, he'll be on board.
Okay, so there is a perhaps reminder or an encouragement to invite women, maybe to get out of the masculine mindset of being results driven and just do it for the enjoyment of being able to explore that part of themselves. And as a result, they can be the embodied invitation rather than the I don't want to. My brain's gone there, but I don't want to use the word. But I can't find another one. A nag.
Mm, hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like that word holds so much weight and it's like everyone's worst nightmare. Like, oh, I don't want to be naggy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I I think it's the difference between being an inspiration and being uh like dragging. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but
Yeah.
the difference between like inviting someone in rather than having to pull them towards you.
Yes. Magnetism.
Magnetism. Mm.
I love the word evoke, like being the evocation. Yes, in your
Mm.
relationship, but in your entire life. Like, I believe that we exist in a living, conscious, animate universe, and how we relate to absolutely everything is how
Mm.
that thing reacts and responds back to you. So live as the living, breathing, moving evocation of that which you also want to receive and how you want to be met in this world. And that absolutely applies to relationships and sex.
Mm.
Like, what do you want to evoke out of your dynamic or out of your sexual exploration?
Yeah, I would agree very much in the same view as you.
Yeah.
So I wonder then what you say or would say to the women who are expressing that frustration and that apathy and not wanting to. I've had another conversation where women expressed something along the lines of, "Why do I have to be the one to have to do it and pay for their inability or lack of capability?"
Hmm. To me, this is where discernment comes in because
Mhm.
there's a difference between, again, with a heterosexual relationship, there's a difference between like, um, you being the visionary and maybe being a little bit ahead and being the evocation, and then eventually your partner gets on board or not. And it's your
Mm.
discernment of like, even if he doesn't want to explore this with me, even if we do have differences in these areas, do I still love and accept this man for exactly who he is? Can I still be
Mm.
with him? So there's a difference between that and someone
Oh.
who genuinely just is not a good match for you. And also getting really clear on what do you value? Like if you're being so honest and real with yourself, what are your like
Mm,
non-negotiable values in your life and in your relationship? And are you willing to be with someone who maybe can't meet you or can't
mm,
fully, um, yeah, meet you in certain
yeah.
areas of your life? Is that a non-negotiable? And that's going to be different for everyone.
Yeah, you know what I feel like maybe is a perhaps bitter pill in what you've just shared is that in doing that it's requiring you one to take responsibility for oneself and one's desires in the relationship. It's easy to
Yes.
just say, oh, but it's their fault and they should be doing it. But then if you're still unhappy, that's you trying to outsource your responsibility to someone else.
Yes. I love the word responsibility. Like, if more people took self-responsibility, oh my God, relationships would not be the
Mm,
same. And
mm,
also, like, when it comes to sex, um, I do somatic sex and intimacy coaching, and a lot of the heterosexual men that I've worked with feel like immense pressure. And if our only sex education is porn, a lot of what we're exposed to is that the man is the one who fully provides the sexual experience. And if he doesn't have a rock hard erection, then it's over. That's kind of the narrative that
mm,
um, we're taught from a pretty young age.
mm,
And I love encouraging people to take responsibility for their pleasure and to not think that
mm.
they only have access to their pleasure, their turn on, their sexual energy um, through someone else. And yes, of course, having sex with someone is an incredible, amazing, magical way to amplify sexual
Yeah.
energy and to go deeper within yourself and within another. And I encourage everyone to have their own erotic practice so that you're building that foundation within yourself and you're showing up to sex already from a place of wholeness and being turned on and not thinking again that your pleasure and your turn on is dependent on this other person. And that
Mm,
just
yeah.
relieves so much pressure and expectation. And yeah,
Mm. It's interesting that you mentioned that the idea of pressure and I guess men's pressure, even if it's unconscious and unspoken, and the the not wanting to to do this work. Do you think that's part of it? You know, we were speaking about how it seems to be women that gravitate more towards this and men less so, although more are starting to. I wonder if pressure has something to do with it.
mm. Something to do with men being less willing to do this
Yeah,
work.
I wonder if you have any insights or just musings into why men aren't as open to going on that journey or
Totally.
exploring that side. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of intersecting layers and reasons, but one of them I believe is that from such a young age, most girls are conditioned to be deeply in touch with our emotions. And
Mm,
except for rage, we're not allowed to feel rage. But when it comes to like sadness and tenderness and just love and ooey
mm,
gooey mushy feelings, like we, for the most part, societally have full permission to embrace that and feel that and express that to others. And it's encouraged and celebrated. And a lot of boys and men are taught that that makes you weak, that makes you less of a man, that makes you less valuable in this world. And that your value comes from being this like just rock hard, almost like a wall and like a
mm,
provider, and that your value comes from the career that you have and the money that you make and how much you can provide. And to do this work that we're talking about, um, whether it's going deep within yourself or going to a certain class or retreat, that takes a deep level of emotional courage and emotional
Mm.
risk and vulnerability and sensitivity and a willingness to look at the cringy, shadowy, ugly parts of yourself that a lot of us don't want to look at. It takes a deep
Mm.
level of vulnerability and also to be witnessed in your vulnerability. So
Mm.
I think my
Oh,
hypothesis is a lot of men are terrified of that. Because
yeah, I
if your
was,
whole identity is centered around this one specific rigid image, it
mm,
can be really terrifying and ungrounding to let that go and let that crumble and explode away and be like, damn, there's so much beneath here that I didn't even know.
yeah. Yes, I like this. So then my question is, do you think men feel safe?
In general.
Yeah, you're speaking into how it's emotionally vulnerable and it's challenging to have that societally constructed idea of what a man is supposed to be, and then to begin to deconstruct that. It's destabilizing, and
Mm,
it makes me wonder whether men feel safe to be able to do that, because
mm,
the implication of it is, in order for me to explore this, I need to be seen as vulnerable to the person who I am being asked to be seen as strong by.
mm. I think for the most part, no.
Mm.
And for anyone, but maybe particularly men, to be vulnerable and to be exposed, like to reveal the truth of your heart, especially to someone you really care about. That's one of the most terrifying things in the whole world for so many
Mm.
people to risk, again, rejection, abandonment, being judged. And I think at the core of it, everyone, like all we want is to be seen and loved and heard and celebrated and embraced. Like that's such a inner child human part of ourselves. And
Mm.
when men are taught directly or indirectly, again, that your value and your worth as a human comes from embodying this rigid, emotionless rock. And of course, as a human, all of us have a heart with feelings and emotions. Like to then expose the truth of how you feel
Mm.
is really terrifying. And I feel that most people in the world don't know how to create a safe space for another person. And there's a lot of, yeah, just projections and miscommunication and people just
Mm.
not knowing what they want or how they feel or what it even
Mm.
takes to create a sense of safety. And
Mm.
something that's come up a lot in sessions, including recently, I think it was last week, um, is like even if on the surface level something might seem I don't know, fucked up in some way, a lot of times it's coming from this deep place of innocence. For example, in sex, um, a lot of women don't want to feel pressured or like there's an expectation to have an orgasm. And when we
Mm.
feel like a man is like, come on, baby, come for me, come for me. Yeah, in certain contexts, that can be really hot. And sometimes it can be um, a turn off and can
Mm.
disconnect us from the moment because when we feel that pressure, it's putting us in our heads. But
Mm.
when we resent men for that pressure, we're not recognizing that usually the man's doing that because he wants you to feel
Right.
pleasure. He wants you to have an incredible experience. He wants to, I don't know, he wants to give you this beautiful experience. So
Yeah.
when we're able to just openly communicate, that's when magic happens. And that's when there's no longer those weird unspoken friction moments of don't pressure me. Okay, but I want you to have an amazing experience, you know?
Yeah. Where's the line in there? Where's the how do I encourage you to have this beautiful experience without you feeling pressured?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, I mean, to bring it back to sex, I feel like a lot of us think that a sexual interaction is successful if an orgasm happens. Like, if the orgasm happens, whoo, okay, we did it.
Yeah.
Now we can
Yeah.
wait until the next time. But like when we completely let go of
Yeah.
goals and destinations and needing to ejaculate or have an orgasm,
Mm.
ooh, that's when you can go infinitely deep into other
Mm.
realms.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree very much so. So then
Hmm.
we were speaking about how men do struggle to feel vulnerable. And then if women are more capable of that, then what can women do to encourage men to feel safe to be able to explore that vulnerability? Because
Mm,
I feel like part of it is, oh, I can't be vulnerable because then she'll see me as less and she won't want me.
hmm.
So
I feel like, yeah. Were you going to say something else?
no, no,
Okay.
no.
I feel like it's embodiment, it's energy. What is the energy that you're exuding? Are you
Mm.
exuding an energy of like, give me your vulnerability, expose the truth of your heart? Like, or is or are you being the invitation and the evocation? Also a
Mm.
willingness to go first and to reveal your truth first and to be
Mm.
vulnerable, like be the way shower.
Mm.
Um, and explicit, direct communication. Um, and asking, because also it's going to be so different for everyone. Everyone has such different backgrounds and experiences and traumas. So directly asking, like, hey, I would really love to feel you more. I would really love to see what's on your heart.
Mm.
Um, is there anything that would help you to feel a bit more open or a bit more safe to let me in? And it's powerful to phrase it like that, centering around yourself as the woman.
Mm.
What do you desire? What would make you feel lit up and feel
Mm.
make you feel more pleasure or more connected or more intimate with this person? And saying
Mm.
like, hey, it would make me feel so connected to you if you let me in just a little bit more. I'm so curious about what's on your heart. I really want to feel
Mm.
connected to you. Like center it around yourself instead of attacking him and cornering him in the kitchen and saying, "You never open up to me. You're always so closed off." Like I statements are your friend.
Yes. Okay. Oh, I like this. So my my interpretation of that is women can encourage more safety in receiving more safety from men by taking responsibility for their own experience and expressing what it is that they're desiring to invite that in. Is that right?
Yeah, and in man woman relating, like men want to see their woman in pleasure. They want to see you feeling good and radiant and open. So if there's even
Mm.
little micro moments where he's opening up or he's doing something that I don't know, makes you feel more open, more connected, more present with him, more in love with him. Like show that, express that, celebrate that through your body. Like make it known. Don't hide it.
Mm.
Like if he shares something with you that does feel vulnerable, name that. Like, I don't know, sound it, move it through your body, be like, wow, yes, I love it when you share more of what's on your heart. I love it when I can really feel you here with
Mm.
me. Like, don't just let it fly under the radar.
Mm. Mm.
So,
Okay, so
and
yeah, celebrate through embodiment. What you said earlier about become the embodiment, that that seems to be ringing true. I like that. And through the embodiment, you become the invitation.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like 99% of it is just what we're transmitting through our bodies. And communication is very important as well, but like where are those words coming from? What is the state of your nervous system and your openness and relaxation as you're having that conversation? um, so much of it is body awareness and embodiment, and what is the energy that you're coming from in every interaction.
Amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm aware of time. I don't want to over monopolize you. So before we part ways, I would love to invite whether you have a takeaway word or sentence from our conversation.
Thank you. I'm going to take a breath and feel into
Yeah, please.
curiosity, grace, compassion. Those three words feel really important. And seeing every human in front of you as an entire universe in a human body waiting to be known and seen and explored, instead of like planting and projecting all of our past pain onto the present moment or onto the person in front of us. When we can interact with people, especially your romantic or sexual partner, with that level of curiosity, radical curiosity, that's when the deepest levels of intimacy can truly happen, and the deepest levels of healing.
I love that. And from that, that's the grounds for creating safety.
A good chunk of it.
Curiosity. So good. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Is there anything else you feel like you want to speak into or share into on that topic of trust and safety? Or do you feel pretty complete?
I feel pretty complete. Yeah, I would invite people to really explore that piece, especially around self-responsibility and like being the embodied container of safety for yourself, and watch the magic that happens in your relationships because of that, instead of thinking your safety is purely the responsibility of the world around you. Bring it back to yourself.
I love that. Bring it back to yourself. Radical responsibility. Thank you. If presuming this does go public, do you want to just share a little into yourself?
Yeah, so I serve as an integrative sex and embodiment coach, somatic intimacy educator, and a training sexological body worker. And I work one-on-one. I'm starting to also work with couples, and I do groups. You can find me on Instagram. I post a lot at I am Nadine Hamilton, a lot of juicy educational stuff there. And my website is bloomwithnadine.com.